Okay, awesome. Welcome aboard it's been a while since we've done one of these webinars, so thank you for coming along. Hopefully we can knock this out in half an hour. There's a fair bit of content that I want to give you tonight. So if you're watching this live through Zoom, thank you for logging in there. We really do appreciate it. We're also streaming through Facebook at the moment, our Facebook Live. I believe, actually, I'm not sure if it's on our main page, on the Profit page, or in our VIP group. Either way, I will share it to the VIP group. Go figure. Okay, cool. Actually, if you're watching a recording, we are going to be posting this up to YouTube as well. If you watch a recording, thank you so much for taking the time. There's obviously a goal in mind there for you that, hey, you want to lose a couple of kilos. We've got there before spring. As of recording this, we are, first week into July. So yeah, spring's just around the corner. But yeah, 8 kilos in about 10 weeks is a pretty cool drop for anybody. So yeah, whenever you happen to watch this video, happy days. I hope you get something out of it. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Jason. I'm the director at Profit International Health and Fitness. Been doing this a long time, a bit longer than I care to mention. This is actually I'm going to tell you how long I've been doing. It's been 16 years in the industry in one way, shape or form. So I like to think I know my shit. But no, look, the day you know it all is the day you got to get out. So we're always learning, always developing our skill sets, our knowledge base, not just around the technical and the theoretical side of things, but also with the way that we can approach potential clients and how we can help people get the best out of themselves. We're also heavily involved in the psychology behind your training, so as to what triggers you. So if you do have any questions about that, feel free sing out, and yeah, we can really dive in nice and deep to the psychology, the brain matter of stuff. But cool, yeah, dealt with a lot of things in my time as a trainer, as a manager, as a business owner, you name it. I've been underweight, I've been overweight, there's everything in between. At the moment, currently, we're about to go into my first bodybuilding show. So, 16 years in the industry, and it's the first time I've actually going to be competed, which is great. As lean as we've ever been, which is awesome. It's always nice to have abs again. Going through that powerlifting stage where you just bulk on as much mass as possible, and now we're cutting back, which is awesome. But cool. That's a little bit about me. I could talk about me all night, but I want to give you guys some info. Like I said, at any stage, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them up on the chat. I'm looking up here because that's where my second screen is, so don't think I'm just reading notes or anything. Awesome. Any questions at all, sing out and we'll try and answer them on the fly. If it does take a little bit more knowledge base, a bit more explaining, I might message you personally with that one, just so we can sort of keep the ball rolling here. We are running on a time limit, so I'm going to try and get this done ASAP. So 8 kilos before spring. That's about 7 weeks away, which can definitely be done. What we're planning on covering tonight, you don't need to see my face up there, do we? No, let's move that out of the way. Okay, cool. Let's try that. Awesome. What we're going to cover tonight, we're looking at obviously goal settings, how you go about planning things, the nutrition and fitness side of things, obviously, any obstacles that you may come across, and obviously anything that you may need, the tools, equipment, anything like that. So you look, best bet, if you've got a pen and paper, you can start taking notes. Obviously you can watch this back as a recording, but let's face it, who's going to do that? We've all got busy lives. None of us want to spend as much time watching me blubber on. But no, cool. If you've got some pens and paper, throw them out. Take as many notes as you like. I like pen and paper as opposed to taking notes on the phone. Just a very, very old school way to do things that actually sticks in your mind a lot clearer than just tapping buttons. But cool. Let's jump in. What are we hitting now? Where are we currently? So, in order to progress, we need to understand where we currently are, right? So, be judgy. There's no harm in judging yourself. Like, yeah, we all judge others, whether we like to admit it or not. I'm not going to lie to you. We all judge others. We all judge. We've got this perception of how this person is in their life. Actually, there's an ad on telly at the moment. I think it's one of those insurance ads. They show you a photo of a guy or a girl, and they tell you to make the assumption of what this person does for a living, how they live their life. Just distracting me. Let's minimize that one. Yeah, and they tell you to make the assumption of how this person lives their life, and you're completely wrong. So it's always cool. We all do it. There's nothing wrong with judging. Obviously, we can keep our judging to ourselves, though. That's always cool. So self-judging, though, is we can be a little more critical about that. There was a couple of years ago. What I used to do actually is take photos, full body, underwear, you name it. Okay, so and what we would do is print them out A4, bigger if possible, and just scribble on them with a pen and say, okay, I don't like the roll under my tummy here. So I don't like the tuck shop lady arms, for example. So you can really just draw on that and get more of a picture in your mind as to what you want, and from there you can then put in place the plan to get you where you want to be. Okay, so self-judging is always awesome. You need to be objective and subjective here. So this is where the psychology comes into play a lot more. So we don't usually talk too much about the subjective. That's more of a behind the scenes approach for what we work with. So objective is obviously the physical, what you can see, versus the subjective is how you feel. So if I was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel first thing in the morning? Are you full of energy? Are you, or do you hit the alarm, hit the snooze button 10 times before you get out of bed? Okay, that's subjective. Objective is, hey, I don't like this roll of fat around my tummy. Okay, if you're doing this alone, cover both of those points, objective and subjective. If you've got a trainer that's working with you there, they'll obviously know how to, or they should know how to get the best out of you from a subjective matter, as well as knowing the objective is easy. Okay, if we want to drop some body weight, which is exactly what this webinar is about, dropping some body fat. The objective is quite simple. The trainer should know how to do that. The subjective, they should also know what your triggers are, I guess, to fire you up. And be analytical with this one as well. So I love that word, analytical. I like my numbers. I like the nitty gritty stuff. So this is where measurements come in. You can take a measurement. Waist measurements are always a great one for progress. As most of us will carry our weight usually around our tummy or our hips. I'm pointing down my tummy. You can't see me there because of the camera. Just be very analytical about it. Moving on, let's look at the plan. So your plan is where a lot of the work goes behind it. So for us to do up a program for you, just a simple training program, not even calories. We're talking a simple training program built from scratch. Probably take us 2 hours, 3 hours minimum, maybe a little bit more. So that's the sort of depth that needs to go into your plan. So that's the simple training plan. That's why trainers are so great. They actually do all that for you. not just something that we're going to pluck off the shelves. We're going to create it for you. So spend some time with you. But of course, again, if you're doing this yourself, easy. You don't have to talk to us, but you know all this stuff. You don't have to try and explain it to a trainer. Okay, so spend some time with the plan. Like, don't be afraid to put it down. Go and do a meaningless task around the house. Come back, pick it up half a dozen times. It's okay to do that. Just have a very accurate plan in place. Okay, really just take your time with it. The big thing here, though, is to be real. So that's point number one here. Be real about your plan. Look, actually, it's not even about the plan we want to make real. It's the understanding where you are in reality. Okay, so if you're 6'5" at 70 kilos, okay, and you want to drop weight, let's be real, that's not going to happen. Okay, that's just overshooting what you're expecting out of this plan, out of the training, out of the nutrition. Okay, that's, if you look at yourself, and again, photos where they come in, where they're important. If you're 6'5", 70 kilos, you want to drop weight. Is it the weight that you want to lose, or is it the toning or the body fat, the body composition? Okay, so that's what I mean about being real and knowing where you are in reality. Okay, so where you are at the moment. Time and availability, easy. Like, everybody that goes through our one-on-one plan, you should have a rough idea, particularly our online coaching guys. We generally give you it's just a spreadsheet with, when you're available to train. I want you to load in everything. So again, spend some time on it. If you're a mum or a dad watching this and you okay, I've got kids drop off at school from 8 to 8:30. Awesome. 8:30, I'm on the roads to work. Work through from 9 till 5. Nobody works 9 to 5 anymore. It's more like a 7 to 7 job. But slot in everything. Be as specific as you can with your times and availability. What's left over, even if it's only half an hour, there's plenty of time for a workout in there. Okay. Also, just a bit of a tip here is to slot in meal prep times. So unless you're going to cook all your meals on the weekend, which isn't a bad idea, you've always got that time. If you're cooking rice will take 15 minutes or so in the rice cooker, or a minute 30 if you're buying the pre-made ones. But understand that cooking will take time as well. Also, the time it takes you to get changed for your workout. Sounds cool. So time availability, write it all down. So write it into that spreadsheet, and of course, sticking with it. Okay, that is the big one. The plan is easy. Training is easy. Nutrition is easy. It's the commitment that a lot of people will struggle to strive for. That's where everybody goes wrong. They sort of don't see any results in sort of 3 weeks and think, oh, okay, is it really worth it? I'm going to go out and have a pizza. I'm going to go out and get some ice cream. Okay. I promise you 3 weeks. Yeah, you may drop a little bit of water weight, but stick with it. Like, the real results come around that sort of 6-week onward mark, unless you're doing some sort of weird and wonderful nutritional side of things, or super unorthodox training, or whatever it may be. Okay, not to try and force you down that route, but there's some strange things out there. So how do we do this? We track. It goes back to this one here, analytical. Track it, photos, weight, measurements, everything needs to be jotted down by yourself. Spend your 65 cents and get one of those little what are they called? Little books from you used to have at school. Well, we did at school anyway. The ruled books, you know what I'm talking about. Notepad of any sort of type. Jot down everything in there. And I'll give you this one. When are we actually going to do these measurements? So 1 day a week, you are going to do your measurements and photos, progress photos. Okay, and they're done exactly the same time at exactly the same positioning, lighting. I usually tell my guys, first thing in the morning, go to the bathroom, flick the kettle on, then jump on the scales there. Okay, that way there's nothing in the tummy. You know, you're still half asleep, so it's not as big a impact on the brain to see the weight. The only thing we do differently here is your weight. Your weight will be done daily. Okay, and flick back through our Facebook page. We did a video a little while ago about why we do that. I'll take a couple minutes. I'm not going to get into it today, but track it daily. That's what I recommend here. Moving on to nutrition. This is the interesting stuff here. So we're talking about dropping weight, yeah? So what you really need to do is understand what is a calorie, first of all. A calorie is simply a unit of measurement. It measures energy input. Okay, so we can break those calories down into our macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats, okay? Each one of those will have a different caloric value. So 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. I think that's right. It's late at night when we're doing this. That's past my bedtime, 10 to 7. Yeah. Understand your calories. It's just a unit of measurement, and understand you burn calories through your day-to-day activity. So it's not just training. You don't train to burn calories. You train to increase your metabolic rate, which over the course of the day will burn calories. 70% of the calories you burned aren't actually from training or muscle. It's actually, daily functions, digestion, thermogenesis. We can really, they're the 2 big ones anyway. The rest of it is just simple activity. So it's not a great deal at all. Understand your maintenance calories. This is the fun stuff here. So if you've got a pen and paper, take some notes here. Your maintenance calories. I'm just looking at who we've got on board at the moment. Okay, cool. So we've got quite a few of our one-on-one guys on board with us tonight. So you guys will all know this. You know your maintenance calories. Who have we got? Excellent. Yeah, we're all looking at dropping kilos. Excellent. Cool. So we can really talk about this. Maintenance, I've set your calorie drop depending on who you are, where you are in your training plan. I usually work off an 800 gram weight drop per week. Now I know we're talking, 8 kilos before spring, which is 7 weeks away. There's other benefits as well. So if you're just starting out, you're going to drop a lot of weight quite quickly. It's water weight. Don't hold it as gospel. We're just sort of balancing out the body. So yeah, I usually work off about 800 grams per week. It gives us that leeway. So if you do have a bit of a rough day, and you make a mistake, you have something you're not supposed to, or you didn't plan out your day as best as you could, so you've eaten more than you should, that gives us the flexibility to save the week. We can actually lower the calories for the rest of the week to keep you progressing and still continue to have that 800 gram drop. Okay, is that making sense? Am I just rambling? Give us a thumbs up or something in our chat, just so we know who have we got. Just so I'm not just talking rubbish. Awesome, Ness. Thanks, Ness. What's we got here? Where's my mouse gone? Awesome, Radar. Thank you. Cool. Planning. This is the big one that so many people go, don't be fucking lazy. Oh, there's the first F-bomb for the night. Look, wrap your head around it. If you, what's that saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Okay, I tell everybody, it's the tools we use, and we'll get to this later on. The tools we use are MyFitnessPal when it comes to tracking nutrition. Okay, spend some time, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys. MyFitnessPal, if you've never used it before, it's completely overwhelming. It's a total pain in the backside to wrap your head around. But once you do, it is a brilliant, brilliant tool to use. It'll track your macros for you, your total calories. If you want to go down the track of offsetting your calories with activity, it'll do that for you as well. Personally, I don't use that feature. I just base my calories around what I should be eating. But plan it. Spend some time the night before and just prep, like understand, load it all in, load your nutrition in for the following day. Okay, so I know for a fact my breakfast currently, and it's been this way for a long time, my breakfast currently is 100 grams of oats, dry weight, 100 grams of oats, a serve of protein powder, and 100 grams of strawberries. That's my breakfast every day. I know that that's going into the body. It's 598 calories. I can give you the numbers there. About 38 grams of protein. Actually, that's more than that. It's 42 grams of protein. Okay, I know the numbers there. And you should too. Actually, the best thing about it is you don't need to remember the numbers. You can just, MyFitnessPal will do it for you. Easy. So log it all in tonight, and then, yeah, it'll make life a whole lot easier for you. If you're new to MyFitnessPal, honestly, just tough it out. It's take your time with it. Again, if you have to put it down, come back to it a half a dozen times. Awesome. It's well worth it. Premium versions out there as well. If you wanted to do the premium version, you can. Personally, I don't bother with it since our coaching app that we use is a little bit more accurate than that. So we just compare the two. And following the steps. So the steps, I know we're actually talking a bit fast tonight. We're way behind on time. Let's see if we can speed this up. Proteins, fats, and carbs, our macronutrients. So the number one, protein. Okay, so load your protein in. I'm going to use chicken breast as the example because there's zero carb in it and there's very minimal fat in chicken breast. So it's pretty much, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's pure protein. It's not, but I'm going to use that as the example. Load the protein in, space it out evenly throughout the day. And then you can add the fats and the carbohydrates. So fats and carbs, you can sort of, if you're going to have red meat, it's going to take a chunk out of your fats as well, just because the intramuscular fats are a lot higher through red meat than chicken or chicken breast, sorry. And then the carbohydrates top it up, as you can see in the photo over here. You've got pretty much salads, fibers, all the yummy stuff. Some good quality fats in your avo, and what looks to be shredded chicken or tuna or something down the bottom. There is a method to that one as well. Again, for those of us in our coaching plan, you've got all this. It should be loaded into your plan at the moment. Moving on, I'm going to get away from nutrition. I'll talk nutrition all day. Training activity, it's a nice, easy one. Again, our coaching plan, it's all done for you. Training activity, so we look at our total daily output. So what do you actually need? Now, most people will have a daily output of around 3,000 to about 3,500 calories. What goes into that though is muscle mass is a good one. How heavy you train, basically how active you are through the day. Okay, so that's what you need to understand here. Get yourself a tracking watch or something like that, just to keep things in line. You can actually log into that and check out how the day's been. Training wise, I definitely recommend strength training. Every single one, actually not every single one. There's a couple of people on some rehabilitation programs, but everyone that's not during rehab will have strength training in their plan. Strength training is where we increase our muscle mass, which the more muscle mass you have, the quicker you can burn body fat. This is the thermogenesis that we spoke about earlier on. Okay, thermogenesis is basically the body trying to keep warm. So the muscles essentially vibrate. So the more muscle mass we have, the bigger the vibrations, not necessarily the more vibrations, not the bigger the vibrations, more vibrations we get, the more energy is required to create those vibrations. Ergo, the more calories you spend simply keeping warm. Okay. And cardio is something I like to program cardio as activity rather than, okay, go for a run. Let's look at daily activity. Let's get a step goal happening. Let's, let's go through, how do you spend your day? Are you sitting at a desk all day? Hey, set an alarm, spend 10 minutes each hour. Just go for a walk around the office, go grab a coffee, go to the bathroom, go and check on Joe Blow down the street or in the next office. Okay, just keep active. Not just for the physical health, but it'll do your head in if you're sitting at a desk all day. And of course, number of days training, that's a 7 days training every single week. Okay, so when I say training, again, activity, not necessarily training. I know we need to recover and we need to recover well. So again, depending on the person, it's usually maybe anywhere from sort of 1 to 3 days of recovery through the week. Okay. If you've been training a little while, you might pop that down to 1 day. But on that recovery day, you're still getting out. You're still, going for a walk. You're still on the treadmill. It's light activity. Sounds cool? Sounds cool. Obstacles are going to come up. Okay. Life gets in the way. Okay? It's just something we have to deal with. Obviously, the best way we can deal with this is prevention, is don't let them happen. So try and cover all our bases. Hey, what could come up? How do we go about this? Okay, I'm in a meeting today. I won't get to eat my meal until 2 hours later. How do we prevent that? Cool, I'm going to have a larger meal prior to the meeting. I'm also going to have a slightly larger meal after the meeting as well. Okay, just be aware of what's going on. Totally get that people, like, life comes up, life gets in the way. We all deal with it in different ways. Okay, it happens. I get that. That's where your plan B comes in. So plan B is pretty much a generic plan that you have in case anything comes up. Personally, it's a protein shake. Just carry a protein shake with you. Maybe not out in public. That's a bit weird. But for example, if you're stuck at the office for a little bit longer than you should be, hey, have a protein shake. If you can't get home in time for your meal, awesome. Protein shake would be better than going to have a chew and spew instead. Okay, being prepared, that's a no-brainer there. We touched on it earlier. And we can only control what we can control. Yeah, control we can control. We can't control anybody else, but we can control how we be about any situation. Okay, so I watched Captain America last night. I'll give you an example here. I watched Captain America, very first Captain America with what's his name? Chris. I'm drawing blanks here. Someone help me out. What's his name? The actor that plays Captain America anyway. Very start of the movie, he's a little weird. He's skinny. There's nothing to him. Spends every day getting beaten up. Okay, but his idea was Chris Evans. There we go. Thanks, Ness. His idea was, you don't have to run. You can stand up and face these bullies. Okay, that's the whole premise of the movie, is I don't like bullies. Okay, so instead of running from the fights, he stands up to them. Okay, same thing. You can't control the bullies, but you can control what you do. Now, in that case, yeah, he got his ass handed to him a few times. Okay, but you get what I'm saying here, though. Okay, if something comes up, we can sit down, sook about it, go down to Chew and Spew, gorge ourselves with burgers and chips and nuggets and all the greasy stuff. Or we can say, okay, I'm going to see what we got. Okay, maybe there's a cafe open. Let's have a quick Google search. Is there a cafe? Maybe you can get a salad or something like that instead. So salad and chicken or grilled something a little bit healthier. Okay, it's how we are about the situation. Okay, and that's a decision. You decide that one. There's a psychology coming out right there. Obviously, the commitment, you need to be committed to this one. I said it earlier, everybody struggles with the commitment. That's what a trainer's for, right? We're going to keep you on track and crack you across the knuckles if you do come off track. Tools and equipment. So and I'm going a bit fast here. Are there no questions at all? What's happening on Facebook here? I think we're good. I'm not going to enlarge. I'm going to press buttons. Cool. Tools and equipment. Basically, you don't need a whole lot. Okay, there's your training plan. So whether that's come from a trainer or you've done that yourself, you need that. Obviously, stick to it. Any apps that you may use, we touched on it earlier. MyFitnessPal is what we use for nutrition. We have our own personal coaching app that we use as well. That's where everything gets loaded in if you're part of our plan, our coaching plan. Actually, that's pretty much all the apps. You don't need fancy apps at all. Just something that does the job, and that's where this comes in. Yeah, MyFitnessPal is what we touched on. I'll put coach down there because let's face it, accountability is where everyone struggles, trainers included. Okay, so I've got a coach, you know, and because I have a coach, I'm the leanest I've been in. Actually, I can't remember when I was this lean. Okay, coaches are. I'm going to toot my own horn here. Coaches are the best investment you can make for anything health related, like a good coach. None of this, you know, here's your program, I've just pulled it off the shelf, have a look at it sort of thing. Like a proper one, someone that's actually going to put time in and care about it and care about you and your progress. Okay. Number one investment you can make. Invest in that. Everything else, training plan, apps, MyFitnessPal, everything else comes with it. At least it should. Notice that there's no gym membership there. There's no dumbbells. There's no kettlebells. Everything, like, you don't need equipment to lose weight. Yeah, it's, you know, opens up different training approaches for you, but that's not essential. Okay, you just need you need the determination and the commitment, and a coach. Yeah, just going to plant that seed. 9. Okay, so wrap everything up here. I know we've gone over on time. So thank you for hanging out this a little bit longer than we first thought. Brief example, I just wanted to throw something down for you. Now, obviously, this is just a generic plan, how everything would look. So training, like we said earlier, 4-day split is nice and easy. So we look at a press, a pull, and then 2 lower bodies, our anterior and our posterior lowers. So that basically keeps things nice and symmetrical. So you see, particularly if you come from the gym environment, now particularly the bigger gyms, you'll see a lot of the bros, we like to call them. It's always arm day, it's always chest day, and they've got piddly little chicken legs. Okay, so nice and symmetrical, even everything out. Not only will you stop having shit thrown at you from not training legs, you'll also do yourself a favor. It's a lot safer. You can really keep the spine in check. So there's no point building this great physique up top if the wheels are a little bit, you know, belong on a Prius. So that's training, basic 4-day split. Nutrition, again, it's just a generic one, 2,000 calories. I've put percentages down here. Obviously, we look at something a bit more in depth than just percentages. So 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fats. Okay. Didn't really have the time to work out what those numbers are for the nutrition, but you get the idea. So that protein, it might be 180 grams of protein. Space that across the day and you're set. Okay, same with your carbohydrates, same with your fats. Okay. Daily output, again, you know, roughly about 3,500 calories. I'm looking at step goals here as well. So step goals will also count to your daily expenditure. You might get an extra, like we touched on earlier on. You don't train to burn calories, but your daily activity will. Okay, so if you're 12,000 steps throughout the day, that could be an extra 500 calories you may not have already had. Okay, and that could be the difference between dropping weight or just simply maintaining what you've got. Okay, and finally, meals. So meals, again, five meals daily with even splits. So this is where it starts to get a little bit technical. I'm not going to give you too much info about this one, but just keep things relatively even in terms of your macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats. So, oops, I don't want to bold it. Just made a hash of that one. So proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Relatively even split between proteins and fats. So let's for argument's sake, say you're having 200 grams of protein per day. 200 grams of protein split amongst 5 meals gives you 40 grams of protein per meal. Roughly the same with fats. Obviously, the fat total intake will differ from 200 grams. It's not going to be 200 grams of fats. It's just ridiculous. But again, base that nice and evenly throughout those 5 meals. And carbohydrates, carbs are a little bit different. We can space them ones out around your training. So if you're training in the morning, I personally like to train in the mornings. So I'll have a bigger breakfast, generally higher carbohydrate, which is cool. Fuels the body full of glucose. Do my heavy strength training, 2, 3, 4 hours later, have another big carbohydrate-rich meal there. And there are other approaches. I know there are a lot of people doing low carb, and that's cool. But, and this is a takeaway here, your nutrition needs to complement your training and vice versa. So if you're doing low carbohydrate, you probably won't get as better results from your training, from your heavy strength training, if compared to somebody who is eating a lot of carbohydrates. Sounds cool? Awesome. I hope you get something out of that, guys. Were there any questions? I know there was a huge amount of info there. I think I went a little bit overboard with the info, giving it out to everyone. What are we? We're 10 minutes overboard. So again, thanks guys for hanging out and sticking with me for this one. Any questions at all before we wrap up? Give you a couple of minutes here. Let's see what's happening over here on Facebook. Any questions through the Facebook, guys? Let's expand that, see what that does. Whoops. Just start listening to myself talk. No, on that one. Okay, awesome. If there's, hang on. Awesome. My pleasure, Ness. That's what I'm here for. Ness has just said that. It's keeping her motivated, and big thank you. So it really is my pleasure, Ness. And it's one of those things. Every trainer will say it. Very few actually mean it. But it really is my pleasure to see you guys thrive. If you're watching this on a recording, I know Vanessa's story quite well. We've been together now for how long has it been, Ness? 12 months, a bit over 12 months. Long time anyway. And yeah, it's just insane, her transformation. Not only the physical, I mean, she's 18 months. There we go. Thanks, Ness. Down, lost astonishing amounts of weight. But the psychological stuff with Vanessa is just amazing. And it really is inspiring to see. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to work with people that are driven and know what they want. Someone that's going to listen as well and actually do the movements. And hey, we all need a bit of motivation here and there. So it's always welcome. So thanks, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. Wrap it up now. If there's no more questions. Awesome. Thanks again, guys. Have an amazing night or morning or whenever it is you're watching this one. And yeah, thanks again for hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We will see you shortly.